I thought, oh my God, you know, you get judged every time you walk out there. She's fat, she's thin, she's pretty, she's ugly, she's this, she's that, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't like all that. I don't like to be talked about. I don't like to be conjectured about. I wish people knew who I really was. And it's a funny thing, because every time I sort of do an interview show like Barbara Walters, and then people say, oh, you're so nice, and you're so vulnerable, and you're so this, and you're so that, and I go, oh yeah. And then 6 months later, it's, you know, a vanity production, they call me, and they haven't even seen the movie, and just because I produced and directed and starred.
Even though The Prince of Tides was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, Streisand was criticized by some for playing the lead character. It's part of what she feels is a general misperception of her.
I'll read an article that says that Hollywood casting was me playing this part. Who would they have liked to have seen play the part? And it goes, Mary Elizabeth Mastroianni, whatever her name is, Mastroianni. You know, because she has dark hair. She was described in the book as dark-haired and beautiful and elegant. But she's not a New York Jew. But that didn't matter. They left that out. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I don't know what long-lasting effect. It's like people want to know the truth about me. But when you tell them the truth, they sort of would rather make it into another image anyway, because why? Is it more interesting journalistically? I still never figured this out.
So what is the real Barbra Streisand like?
I like a lot of time off. I mean, I like to just, you know, I like to learn, study, take courses in college, go to seminars, travel, do nothing, design houses, build houses, read. I can never do that when I'm, well, that's not true. I did redesign rooms while I was doing this movie, because I'm sort of driven, you might say. But I like to get a lot accomplished. I like to do a lot of things at the same time. It would make my life easier if I would do one thing at a time, but no such luck.
A project like The Prince of Tides, which is a very serious examination of a dysfunctional family, brought Barbara's own feelings into focus.
The feeling of not being afraid to feel the pain of one's past. You know, as I say in the movie, it takes real courage to feel that pain. It's scary to go into some of those places that we'd rather forget. But sometimes, you know, it affects our behavior patterns. It affects our being able to really fully enjoy life. Because that fear gets in the way of loving. So I think that because what you're afraid of is really feeling, and how can you really feel anything if you're not allowing yourself to also feel the pain at times? That it's not such a terrible thing, that we have to learn to respect it and embrace it as part of our lives. I mean, it's part of being human and alive, to feel all kinds of feelings. I'm getting there. I'm still struggling. You know, it's still hard. But I know what it's like to forgive now. And that's a theme for me that meant a lot. Because I was angry at my mother for a long time. Probably angry at my father, too, for dying in some way, not being there for me. But angry, yeah, angry that my mother really never understood me that well. Never really supported my needs or my vision. But now it's like really, you know, somehow coming to terms with that. And that's what I mean by looking at your past. I mean, if you're not conscious of it, you are destined to live out the unresolved problems of your parents. And the pattern just goes on. And there are many patterns I have that are very much like my mother that I'm still trying to shake. And there's also parts of her that are fabulous, and I'm glad I'm like her. Do you see what I mean? It's not that simple. I mean, people are complex. That's the beauty of being alive. But I was very conscious of that, always to support Jason in what he wanted to do. And I always thought what he did was terrific anyway, so I didn't have to lie or work at it. He made a film, he directed a film, he wrote a film that was extraordinary. He sits down and scores a piece of film when my secretary and him made a film for me when I turned 40. And he scored it with playing the piano. It was brilliant. So I think he's fabulous, you know.
We'll have more of our conversation with Barbra Streisand when we come back. We'll also report on London's preparations for this very big event. And of course, we'll take you inside Wembley Arena for opening night of the Tour of the Century. Stay with us. Welcome back to E's special look at Barbra Streisand's first ever concert tour. I'm Steve Kometko, and right now we're outside Wembley Arena in London, where last-minute concert preparations are currently underway. We'll take you inside for opening night in just a few minutes, but first, we've been talking with Barbra Streisand about her life, about her fears and passions, and about how she sees others approach life.
I don't think too many people are happy, no. And I think we're all afflicted with some sort of problems from childhood. And that's okay. I mean, obviously, you know, that's the way it goes. I mean, there are very few people who really come from wonderful families. Even it's funny, even the people who come from being extraordinarily loved have problems. And they think, well, the world centers around them, and look, my parents love me, so why don't you love me? And I expect the world to give me a living or whatever that is. So they get another kind of problem. I mean, it's not set up to be perfect, you know, like a perfect parent-child relationship. Just the fact that a boy-child separates from his mother, who he's dependent on. Who knows if that doesn't cause a certain kind of anger and resentment. Dependency doesn't cause that. And then what do you do with it? You know, does it turn into this problem, the undeclared war against women, you know, as in Susan Faludi's new book called Backlash? What is this problem between men and women? You know, to really go into that, it's fascinating.
That was one of the issues Streisand tackled in The Prince of Tides. Adding to that is the relationship Streisand had on set directing her son Jason Gould. It presented some unique challenges.
Well, we had to get that straight, because in real life, I don't criticize him. I can't even tell him I don't like the way his hair looks today or anything. I've learned not to do that. He doesn't, you know, he doesn't need that from me, he doesn't want it from me. But as his director, I said, you know, you're going to be able to separate that, me, the mother, from you, the director, when I say, well, I think there's something I'd like to work on here, and blah, 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 blah. And he was great about it. I think we had one moment out of many, many, many days shooting that the lines crossed a bit.
And as for directing in general,
I was terrified before making the decision to do it. And I was terrified before making the decision to do this, because you are on the firing line. I mean, you are just open to attack. And that doesn't feel too good, so I thought, why bother? I was going to build a house that I've had in my mind for a long time. But I couldn't do it. I put the house on hold for 3 years, you see. And decided, what is life really about, if not to take risks and get over challenges and obstacles and push yourself through the fear. Because I think everybody's frightened a bit. It's just, you know, how many of us just go through the fear and do it anyway. And now, you know, I was reading this book called You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. It impressed me a lot, because in it says, fear is the energy behind doing your best work. And I thought, wow, that's a positive way to look at it. You see, I think it's very important to be positive about everything in your life that's negative. You can turn a twist on it. So I could say to you, I could either complain about my mother not believing in me, or I could tell you it served me in some way to become who I am. I could say, I was terribly frightened, and fear is terrible, and it's awful, and it makes me feel uncomfortable, so I won't do that because it's too uncomfortable. Or I could say what this man says in this book, which is something about get used to being uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. Sometimes doing something that's risky. But so what? You know, do you want to stagnate and just be comfortable? So I have a very good life in a sense, because I can be uncomfortable for a while, and then I can be very comfortable.
And now the work begins again, and it involves something that is known to terrify Barbra: performing on stage. It all began on New Year's Eve when Streisand surprised and delighted fans by performing for 2 nights